Welcome to Co-op Mode, round 160. This is the official video game podcast of Secret Friends Unite. I'm one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra, joined by the CaNerdian, the man, the legend, the guide to My Bloody Valentine, if you're in the area, Mark Carabin.
Hello. I've never seen that, but I know where it was filmed. So, yay.
Mark, you're going to tell me you have never had Tim Hortons. You're going to tell me you never had Labatt. You're never going to tell me you've never had poutine. You're going to tell me all these things because I assumed that's just part of like baptism within Canada. It's like you get confirmed. You have to do these things, especially from where you're at, man.
Yeah, all the other ones, 100%. But My Bloody Valentine, I've never seen. So that's, yeah.
That is a date night movie for you and Loren. Yeah. See it. And I'm assuming you'll see some like local celebrities there and you'll be very happy for it.
Probably, yeah, for sure.
Okay. Wow, you're making me feel bad because I've seen this movie. We talked about it on the podcast, actually. We did a review. It was great. Highly recommended to all Canadians. And if you haven't watched it, I mean, come on. What are you even doing? But we are joined by another Canadian who is part of an amazing group of people. We're all interconnected in this, podcasting world, but I listened to a certain Marcus O'Neill as he got me into the world of fantasy critic gaming, that he's the host of Hype Factor and Tiny Game Chronicles. Mr. Marcus O'Neill, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. Guys. I really appreciate the invite. Looking forward to getting into talking some games with you guys tonight. And I will say +1 to having never seen another Canadian who's never seen My Bloody Valentine, but I have done all the other things as well, like Tim Hortons, poutine. What was the other one? Doesn't matter. But I've done the Labatt's. Yes, of course. Not for a while, but yes.
Okay, you get a pass. But you know what?
I will also mention, Todd, that yes. I think Marcus is similarly aged to me, and that movie was filmed in 1981, which is a few years before I was even born. So the relevance of that to me growing up was quite little. I didn't even realize that was filmed here until a couple of years ago. And I don't think
there's no like signs around the town saying like there's no like tours, like no?
I don't think so.
It's not the lifeblood of the economy? I don't know.
That's our industry now, is a film from 1981.
Yes.
It's a sea horror movie. Right alongside Legend of the Psychotic Forest Ranger. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Really well. I just want to confirm that. So you're just you're just basically the rebel. You're like, I'm not gonna watch your movie, Mom and Dad. Take that. And Marcus, I mean, come on, let's get cultured. This is part of Canada's esteemed culture, so take advantage of it. But before we get into that, Marcus, we've gotten to know you through your work, through the Carpool Gaming community, also Hype Factor, and we also know you've got a local celebrity. Your son, Miles, is an amazing kid. He's an inspiration, and I know you're here despite having some more, some issues with illness and things like that. So we want to thank you. And we can always support Miles and other kids in hospital through Extra Life. And that always happens in the fall with the Carpool Gaming community. So we're glad to support you and your family. And we're all behind Miles.
Appreciate that, Todd, and Mark, of course. Yeah, it does mean a lot. I mean, we have had a lot of support through the various gaming communities. Carpool right at the forefront of that. So it does mean a lot. So I appreciate it.
So Marcus, one of the things you have to do when you come on the show is give us a little bit of your background history in gaming. So we ask a couple questions. So typically my question that I ask first is, what was your first gaming memory?
Yeah. So you're going to make me go way back into the memory bank. So I think I'm probably closer in age to Todd than I am to Mark. So I go quite a ways back. I think it was definitely, as a good Canadian boy that I was. I always played hockey, so from a very young age, it was really those arcade games that were always in the arenas that I was playing. So those are probably my earliest memories. I remember like Double Dragon and Wonder Boy and.
Wonder Boy was an arcade game? I don't even remember that. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah. And like 1943, 1942, 1943, those the shmups. And going to these hockey tournaments and spending all the free time in between games in the arcade that was kind of attached to the arena, that, definitely one of my earliest memories. In terms of console stuff, we used to, before we ever had a home console, we used to rent consoles. And I remember every weekend, my parents would take us to the local video store in our small northern Ontario town.
So wait.
Yeah.
What is the name of your video store in your local little town?
I don't remember. I know. I wish I remembered. I would. Yeah. Because we ended up moving from there when I was about 10 or 11. So yeah, that's way too far back for me to remember that stuff, Todd. But I remember renting the Sega Master System. And that was
Master
really
System, not even the Genesis.
Master
System was a deep cut.
Yeah. The Master System, and taking that home. And again, I remember Wonder Boy specifically. I've got a big affinity to the Wonder Boy series. So yeah, and I think they had a version like a Duck Hunt. I remember the light gun as well, like coming home with that. And then we got, one Christmas, probably in the late 80s, we got our NES, and that kind of solidified it for me. I think the first game that I got was The Legend of Zelda and Dragon Warrior. So like pretty seminal franchises, and I still love JRPGs. I've kind of fallen a little out of the Nintendo kind of ecosystem in the last couple of decades, but that's kind of really how it all started for me, I would say.
Mark, follow up.
All right, you mentioned a couple of amazing games to start off. I want to know now your 3 desert island games. If you can take 3 games on a desert island. Now, we're presuming this is an island that's isolated but still has an internet connection. So if you want to say like Fortnite or something like that, like you can.
Get Starlink and you get a solar panel with power.
Yeah, but no mic, so you can't call for help. You're still stuck on this island. But your 3 games online, it doesn't matter the online or the console or anything like that. Just three games that you could play in perpetuity.
That is tough because maybe as we'll get into, I'm not a multiplayer guy at all. So like I like my relatively short experiences, single player kind of linear sort of games. So like the idea of playing kind of games or the same stuff over and over again is not super appealing to me. But I guess one that maybe first jumped to mind, which is an absolute all-time favorite for me, is Red Dead Redemption 2. I love 2. And I think like it, I think I often describe it as kind of like the closest thing to like actual Westworld, like actually experiencing Westworld that you could get. It was just, you were in that world, and it's so huge. I mean, obviously I played through the story. I did a lot of the side stuff, but I didn't do all the side stuff. It does actually have, I don't know if it's still active or not, but it had the Red Dead Online too. So maybe we could get into that as well. So yeah, I think like that's a first one that come to mind. I've got to pick 3. So 3. Let's go. Let's go to my one of the roots is Dragon Quest 11. I love that game. I know, at least in our communities, I know that was very well reviewed, very well received critically, but I feel like it gets a lot of hate in our communities. I'm thinking Kevin Ainsworth. He really rags on that game.
Oh, Kevin, really?
Yeah. So, and there's a few others for sure, but I think it can be a bit polarizing for folks. It does have a lot kind of like I don't know, older JRPG tropes and sensibilities to it that the Dragon Quest series does in general. So I kind of get why somebody might not vibe with it, but it's just pure comfort for me. And again, I guess I'm just trying to pick like big games that I can really sink my teeth into if I'm stuck on an island for a really long time. And maybe another one, recent one, which actually didn't. I liked it. I maybe almost loved it. Is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth?
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I was just clarifying that I made it. Rebirth, right? Yeah, exactly. It's so Rebirth, weird. The second one, yes.
Yeah.
So I felt that game was too big. But maybe if I'm stuck on an island and I got all the time in the world, that's exactly what I want. Playing all these mini games. I need something to do. So yeah, maybe we'll go with those three.
All right. Great answer. There's no wrong answers. You could have been like, I don't know, Pokemon Go. I'll just walk back and forth.
Pokemon Go would be a wrong answer.
It could be like Balatro or like
Balatro might be good. I haven't played it yet, but I do own it.
A game that just goes on forever, and we just say like, oh, you get like none of the. You don't have to worry about the consumables, so it's not like you're paused. Right. Yeah, you have the Apple.
Balatro would be good. I know I'm going to love Balatro. I'm almost like hesitant to get into it because I want to play all this other stuff and I don't want to get sucked into it. So I own it.
Mobile.
I'm gonna get there.
On mobile. Get on mobile. You can play on the toilet. You never feel bad.
Yeah, maybe that's the solution.
No, see, that's what I did. Is to not get it on mobile if you don't want to get sucked into it. Do what I did. Get it on your computer.
Oh no,
something else. I did not install that game on my phone. I put it on everything else, my iPad, everything. But it was not a game that I could be like, I'm hooked on this. I got to play it everywhere because I knew that I would. So I like segmented it. Now I see it's coming to Xbox, and I'm like, shit, it's in one more place.
Yeah, I think it's already there. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Game Pass. It's right there. Yeah.
Game Pass.
Yeah.
But for me, it's one of those things where, well, if it's on my other devices, I'm going to play that instead of play real games. So I'm like, you know what? I toilet time. What's better, Twitter or social media or Balatro? I'll take Balatro over social media. So there you go. So you decide, but I'll take.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
Yes. Solid. Absolutely. So thank you, Marcus, for that intro into your brain. Just remember, Dragon Warrior was free with your subscription to Nintendo Power because apparently I don't know why, but I got that game. Everybody got that game with Nintendo Power. So everybody had it. It probably was the number one seller on the NES and nobody knows, but there you go. Yeah. So with that, we need to get into the people that make this awesome podcast possible. Mark, who are those people?
Those people are our friends over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. You can go join these people for 1 week for absolutely nothing. Free trial. Check out all the ad-free exclusive content, all that kind of stuff. And we're going to talk about something else in a second. But first, I want to thank the people who are already there, including our besties tier, Derek Trevelyan, the figure dude, Francie, the official hairstylist of the Secret Friends Unite, Xbox Expansion Pass, Luke Lore, Charlie's Uncle Tim, the Friends with Benefits tier. We have John Sidor, Phoenix Sisters Entertainment, Brendan Myers, Corian HD, the Boss Rush CEO, Matthew Keel, Kurt Krug, and Tanya Lee. And our secret friend super squad. I'm going to get that right one of these weeks, I swear. Sean, Stella, and Henry Nias. This family is amazing, and they are doing a giveaway very soon. We're drawing at the end of this week.
Yes.
Todd's going to be doing the draw. So they're giving 5 annual Friends with Benefits Patreon subscriptions. So that's a year's Patreon subscription. They're doing 5 of them. And all you have to do to enter is subscribe and comment on any one of our YouTube videos or rate this podcast or any one of our podcasts on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you've done that in the past, congratulations. you're already entered as long as you take a screenshot and send it to us. You can DM us at Blue Sky at Secret Friends Unite, Instagram, secret.friends.unite, email secretfriendsunite@gmail.com, or just DM any one of us on Discord or directly. However you want to find us, send that screenshot. You're entered. Doesn't matter if the review was 5 years ago, the comment was 6 years ago, or 2 minutes ago. Drop what you're doing right now. Do that. Enter it. We're giving away 5 year-long Friends with Benefit tier subscriptions. Thank you to the Nias family. We're going to be announcing the winners Friday, March 7th. So as you're listening to this, if you're listening when it first came out, you still have a couple of days. So get on it. Join us over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Lots of fun stuff going on over there all the time. I'm doing a podcast, an exclusive podcast with Charlie tomorrow. That's going to be dropping there soon. And that's as much of a tease as I'm going to give you because I want you to go check it out. So go check it out again. Patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. And don't forget to enter that contest.
Marcus.
Yes.
You're eligible. Go enter.
I'm on it. Yeah.
Excellent.
Doing it right now.
Excellent. Fantastic, folks. It's super easy. Do it. It's fun. All you're going to do is the worst thing you can do is not win, but you can always get a free trial. So thank you so much. Patreon is great. And the reason why the Nias family did this, because they just want more people to check out our stuff. That's it. It's awesome people that make this group we have awesome. So with that, we talk about one of the best things about this podcast. That's what I say. I don't know. Other people sometimes worry about this segment. Mark sometimes thinks I'm a little bit crazy, but that's okay. I think it brings out the best in us. And that is buy, rent, and return. Marcus, you talked about your old school, growing up, your video store. You could rent a game, you could rent a movie, rent a game, rent a gaming system. You could buy it eventually, maybe. It was probably pretty expensive to buy. You could rent it, or you could return that video or game or whatever. So we play that in regards to the world of games. So this week's topic, based on the very sad knowledge that the game by Monolith Studios, Wonder Woman, was canceled. WB Games not being the best selves. So I picked, what are the canceled games that we would want to see? And the games I picked were Prey 2. If you remember that E3 demo where they showed it, the video where you're basically a space bounty hunter. Looked so cool. It was amazing. Canceled. We got the other Prey game, which was different, but still, this game was awesome, being a space bounty hunter. We got another game about potentially being a space bounty hunter or a villain in the world of Star Wars. That is Star Wars 1313. We saw that video, never came out, and everybody was so excited about going the depths below Coruscant and doing crime and having a good time. Canceled. And we also got StarCraft Ghost. StarCraft is primarily a RTS game, and they were going to get this awesome first-person game with the Ghost character. And I think it was basically back in the N64 era. It was canceled. It was about ready to come out. It was canceled. Mm-hmm. So those are the games I picked for buy, rent, and return. Before we get into our picks, I think we should talk to the people that gave their picks from the various Discord groups, including my company that has a Discord group, which is pretty cool. So, Mark, do you want to get into the SFU Discord?
Sure. Yeah. First one came in from Infinite Rewind. Chose buy StarCraft Ghost because that franchise should still be around. Can't argue there. Rent Prey 2 for the curiosity of it. Again, hard to argue with that. If it's, we got like a couple of games and you want the sequel. You're just kind of curious where they'd go next, and they didn't get that. So that means they're returning Star Wars 1313. For me, these games are a decent spectacle with little substance and a reliance on the IP so heavily it might as well be an additional leg on a body that doesn't know how to use it. Oof.
Matt Keel, one of our Patreons. Oh my goodness, spitting a little hate there.
By some Star Wars games before.
Yes, yes.
Someone spent money on Yoda Adventure Stories for the Game Boy
desktop stories. Yeah.
I feel your pain. Don't worry. Not to mention, and I mean no disrespect to the panel here, but the Star Wars community, he's talking to me directly. The Star Wars community seems to grow more unhinged with each new additional thing added to its ranks. There's a lot of toxicity in Star Wars.
Mark, you're not unhinged, though. You're not unhinged.
Others are.
Slightly, but that's not Star Wars related. So there we go. Thanks for those ones, and for the no disrespect to this panel of massive Star Wars fans.
So the next comment I will say, Brian Horan actually had a question about Rivals, but his BRR is below that. So we can go back to his basically Marvel Rivals later. But if you want to hit his BRR.
Yeah, I'll grab that one too. Okay, so Brian, don't know much about any of these, but I would say StarCraft would be hard to go wrong with. Absolutely, especially like a different take on StarCraft. I think that's a great first choice. Back when Blizzard still had some charm left, absolutely. Rent, Prey 2, Return Star Wars. Never clicked much with Star Wars video games. All right,
interesting. I really like Star Wars video games. Oh well, I'm not
I really like Star Wars video games, and I'm a big Star Wars fan. They've had some turds in a bucket, and they've had some absolute gold. And even when they hit absolute gold, sometimes there's a little bit of turdishness with those. Looking at you, Jedi Fallen Order. I loved that game, but like they really had some shit to sort out by Jedi Survivor. They fixed it all with Jedi Survivor. That game was a freaking masterpiece. But the first one was tough to get through with its little like
with the map
jumps. And
how about the map?
The map was clunky.
Yeah. Just like, but playing that game a year or two later, once they fixed some of that bugginess, but like it was a little rough. All right, you want me to keep going with these? We got a couple.
I can hit the next one. Then you can hit. So this is from Save the Game Media. Kevin Ainsworth says Scalebound. And GameStop still owes me $5 for StarCraft Ghost. That's amazing when you've got you've got the pre-order for that game that never came out. So thank you, Kevin. Yes, I agree. Scalebound, that's sad. And then Brendan says, what about the games that took too long? They should have been canceled, like Duke Nukem Forever. I totally agree. Some games do not get better with age. Essentially, when they get released, Duke Nukem Forever, boo. Okay, Mark, you got the next group?
Alrighty.
This is all from the nerd chat.
Okay. All right. So we got MKen10 said, this is a good one. Buy Prey 2, rent Star Wars 1313, and return StarCraft Ghost. Seems to be going against the grain here. I throwing StarCraft under the bus, but everyone has their own takes. Chipotle Bear, Prey 2 all day. Same as Matt. You saying so? It's a Matt. Oh, that's the one before that. There we go. All right. X Bacon Gaming. Return all 3.
He's the biggest grump in the world. Bacon. Boo.
That's a fantastic answer. I love it. Also, I'm going to use that in the future. I don't know what Todd's going to hit me with, but Todd's going to hit me with something sometime.
Just to screw me over. Return all 3.
Hit me with something sometime, and I've never thought about just being like, return all 3. Screw you, Todd.
I have cheated before, Marcus. I bought 2. And Marcus like, what are you doing? I broke the game. Yeah. So Mark can break the game.
It made me absolutely like sweat bullets trying to make the Sophie's Choice of video games, and Todd's just like, I'll buy everything, and the hate just goes through the webcam. Chipotle Bear, Heresy. I'm guessing returning
to Bacon.
He's talking to Bacon. Yeah. Daddy Diwali. Bye. Prey 2. Both versions of the game. Chipotle Bear said amen to that one. So
I tell you, Chipotle Bear, he's the most positive, great, and congratulations to Nerd Chat for getting 200 episodes. They actually had the voice of Morden from Mass Effect 2 come on or basically do their intro. It was amazing. Great episode. I was on that. Just props to the Nerd Chat for 200 episodes. They are a fun group.
Fantastic.
So I'll clean this up with the General Mills video game Discord chat. This is amazing that my company has a Discord chat. It's very fun. It's got our CEO head in the Discord. It's very weird, like to see your CEO like, oh, he approves this. Thank you. A little weird. We've got Wilmer Isip definitely wishing we got the multiplayer Spider-Man game from Sony rather than being canceled for the game, the War Shore Films, meaning he just is commenting on a game that was canceled. Sam G says, not exactly what the question is asking for, but I wish that EA didn't have the exclusive rights for Star Wars games for as long as it did. Also, Titanfall 3 replaced by Apex, which is just not the same. So once again, a game that didn't get made, but something else replaced it. And the last thing, Colin Zoller says Star Wars 1313 and Metroid Dread on the DS, but we did get Metroid Dread on the Switch. Yeah. So I love these comments. They're great. They're condescending, they're poking the bear, and they're having a good time. So we appreciate that. So now
I'm very curious with the Metroid Dread on DS. Would that that was a masterpiece on Switch. I don't know the DS would have brought literally anything to that it didn't, like, that the Switch didn't improve on, like, graphically. It like the Switch, they didn't make it try to shoehorn 3D into it or anything like that. Like, DS maybe a slightly more portable handheld.
Maybe it's a dev team, Mark, because I would think at the time it would have been probably a standard Nintendo team versus having someone like Mercury. Was it Mercury? Who did Metroid Dread? I'm trying to remember. It wasn't Mercury Stream. They did Metroid 2 Samus Returns on the Switch, or 3DS. 3DS? Yeah, 3DS. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nintendo EAD.
I would have to look into that. They conceived it. Okay, I'm just quickly looking Wikipedia. This is the content that everyone wants, but whatever. I'll read it very quickly.
This is research and development, folks. Marcus is just sitting there waiting for this.
Anything about this? So yeah,
Sakamoto conceived Dread for the Nintendo DS in the mid 2000s, but development ended due to technical limitations. So they knew that. Sounds like they just waited for technology to catch up, and they made it for Switch, which I have to say was, I think, a great move. If they knew they couldn't pull it off on the DS, and then the 3DS was not.
I mean, it would have been on the Wii U.
Over, thank God that Switch that skipped the Wii U.
They would have sold like 2 copies, unfortunately, on the Wii U.
Yeah, I think it's a good call leaving it for Switch. Personally, and that's someone who I charged up my DSi this weekend and started playing Pokemon Soul, Heart Gold. So there's someone that still loves my 3DS and my DS. But yeah, I think Metroid Dread landed where it needed to.
How did it?
More people could play it.
How did it sell, by the way?
Metroid Dread, I think it was like 3 million copies. I think it was one of the
good for Metroid, right?
Metroid games. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. That's a good question, because a lot of people, we talk about the sales of things like Pikmin have never sold like amazing, but on the Switch, it's the best selling platform they could be on. Like getting Luigi's Mansion 3 sold like 12 million copies. How much did it actually sell on anything else? So the Switch is the system you wanted to be on if you're bringing back a game, because I just don't think you would have had much success. The only game that did really well on the Wii U, I would say, was Mario Kart. But Mario Kart does well on everything. I don't even know if there's a system you say, it only sold like 2 million copies. Maybe the Virtual Boy, if the Virtual Boy had a Mario Kart, probably didn't sell that well. But probably the best-selling title on the Virtual Boy.
December 2022 was the last time we got sales numbers updated on Metroid Dread, and that was a little over 3 million copies. So I assume in the years since then, it's sold at least a few more copies, maybe not like gangbusters, but I'd say, it's decently.
It's a tough game. Plus, it's a very tough game for the audience that Switch gamers are typically not used to, like very difficult games.
Yeah, but man, I love that game. I got to replay that sometime soon.
I need to replay it now that there's like an easy mode. So there we go. That's all I'll say. So Marcus.
Yes.
I will return these 3 games.
Yeah, it's funny that it was Bacon who wanted to return all 3.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to come in here and ask, can I just return 2? Because There's
if you need to, if you've got a heart of like a cold heart, yes, you can return to.
Well, I can play the game as intended, Todd. So I guess I would probably buy Star Wars. Now I'm a casual Star Wars fan. I dabble. I like the core movies. I watch some of the shows. Andor is one of the best things that's ever been made for television, in my opinion. It's a fantastic story. But some of the other stuff is very hit and miss for me. But I think one of the things about Star Wars is that whenever something's coming out, it always seems to have just this potential that you can really latch onto, and it always looks great when you first see it. When you actually get to play it or kind of experience it, maybe not so much. But when you first see it, it's got that potential, and so that's what I guess why I would buy Star Wars. Of the other two, I don't really have much of an affinity to either series or previous games. But I think where my sensibilities lie these days, I would probably be more inclined to rent Prey 2. It sounds okay. It sounds, I would probably, maybe one of those games where I spend, 15, 20 hours in or something like that and kind of get through it and enjoy it. And it would probably be good. And, that would be good enough. StarCraft, it's funny, one of the things I could have, said one of my Desert Island games might have been Civilization. That was a big game for me the original Civilization when I was a kid. So these kind of like, I don't know, Civ is not the same as StarCraft, but it's kind of in that same, vicinity. And so
tile-based doing things. Yeah.
We're in the same ballpark at least. And, but I have completely moved away from those. I don't have the time to kind of devote to a game like that. So let's return StarCraft. So buy Star Wars, rent Prey, and return StarCraft. That's my answer.
Mark, I'm curious because I don't know where you stand with the other two franchises, but definitely know where you stand with Star Wars. But I don't know if that means that you'll go that path.
It does mean I'm going to go with that path because 1313 was a game that I was looking forward to. It's not just, throw Star Wars on a game and I'm interested. Like I was looking forward to the gritty underbelly of Star Wars before Andor was a thing. Like I think seeing that in a video game would be really, really cool. We got kind of seemingly maybe some of those vibes with Star Wars. What's it called?
Outlaws.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it was quite the same as what 1313 was proposing. So I kind of still think we need that. And seeing Outlaws and seeing Skeleton Crew, I think there's like a lot of the Star Wars underbelly that can be explored through whatever medium you want. So a video game I think would be really interesting. For the next two, I'm kind of torn because I love StarCraft. The original like StarCraft those games were like some of the few PC games that I actually played because I didn't play a lot of PC. I was always like a Nintendo kid. So, but StarCraft was always something that I really, really loved playing, and StarCraft Ghost taking that in a different direction was really cool, but it was a stealth action game. So I have to think of like, am I just showing my love for StarCraft and then the stealth, especially back in like, what was that, GameCube stealth? That's some broken.
Gosh, yeah, it would have been very early, like that PS2, PS3 era would have. I think was when it was being thought it would produce.
Yeah, so I don't know if I would have liked this game, depending on how the stealth worked out. So I'm kind of leaning towards Prey 2, which is just a straight up Bethesda first person shooter. And we have a lot of those, but like this one could have been neat. So I'm kind of feeling like torn on this, to be honest, because I love,
it's what it could have been, right? What could have been, and you don't know,
right? Infinite Rewind said StarCraft, the franchise should still be around, and like, yes, 100%. But man, like, could Prey have been Also something that should still be around based on this second game. I think I'm going to go rent Prey and return StarCraft, and that hurt to say, but I'm sticking with it.
All right.
Yep.
Good to know you're all wrong. Oh, did I say that out loud? Oh my God. I have no inner monologue. Well, I will say this because I did look up who was behind Star Wars 1313. I can honestly say those people behind it did nothing of note. So I can't say that I could say, looking at their resume, that they would make an amazing game. I just know there was a cool trailer and we got this, but we also got Star Wars Outlaws. We've gotten other games in Star Wars. So it's not like that's we're never getting a Star Wars game dealing with like the corruption of Star Wars. We got Outlaws and that's happened. So I'm going to say Prey 2 is my buy. Because when I saw this, it was amazing. The best trailer I've seen in an event for a long time, where you've got this cool, like really futuristic space, and you see this guy leave, and you've got this basically a space bounty hunter collecting bounties, and the way he scans and views like that's a cool concept. I like it. It's not tied to an IP. I like that. So I thought it was really cool the way to approach it. And the first Prey game was all about a Native American who went to the native realm and killed aliens and creatures. So very weird. And they said, let's do something like this. And I'm like, that is cool. I like that, but it never happened. So I'm not sure what happened to that team. And the IP went to another game, which felt like Men in Black. And, it's revered as a good game, but I just never played that. With StarCraft Ghost, because typically StarCraft is an underloved franchise and we've only got the RTS games, I think there's more to do with it. And it reminds me of a game called Command & Conquer Renegade, where basically they said, we're going to take Command & Conquer and we're going to make it a first-person shooter where we're going to put you as a unit on the field. And I'm like, that's cool. I love that game. I thought it was awesome. I thought this would be cool, where you basically take basically Ghost is like this badass who's stealthy, can go in and disrupt things. And I thought, putting her on the battlefield in a different view with all of these different units you're familiar with, and the Zerg and everybody else, I'm like, that's amazing. If you could make it fun, obviously it would have been limited at the time for what it could do, but now it'd be amazing. So I'm going to rent that just to see what they could do. Star Wars 1313, the only reason I'm returning this is because I feel like we've got a lot of Star Wars games. We've gotten Outlaws. I'm not sure if Outlaws would have outdone what Star Wars 1313 did, but we also got the amazing Star Wars Bounty Hunter game on PS2, Mark. What's better than that?
Well, this was supposed to take Bounty Hunter and keep going. Bounty Hunter was out already when this was announced. This was
PS2 game, not very good.
Take that and run with it, right? Like it was supposed to be the next evolution of, okay, this was our gritty PS2 game. Here's our gritty PS3 game or PS4 or whatever. Actually,
I think it was PS4. Yeah.
So that was supposed to, like, if you liked this, you're gonna like that, and revolve around bounty hunters and Boba Fett and that deep-seated gritty underbelly. So Bounty Hunter was like the stick your toes in the water kind of like baseline of like, hey, we can do a serious Star Wars game that's not the kiddie super Star Wars stuff.
The reason I feel better about returning that is because I know we'll get more Star Wars games. I do not know if we're going to get another Prey game. I don't know if we're going to get another Star Wars Ghost or Star Wars game. So to me, it's like, that's why I'm like, Star Wars will have another chance to shine because I've liked so many Star Wars games. So there you go, folks. That's where we land on buy, rent, and return. And Marcus, if you can remember where you rented your games, please look it up, and I'd love to know. Because my neighbors owned the Video Hut in my little town of Metamora, Michigan. Love Video Hut, but I couldn't rent any games from them, so I had to go to another place in Lapeer, Michigan, to rent a Sega Genesis, and that was very expensive. I got it for a weekend. Yes.
Yeah. Well, when I was older, when we moved to a different community, it was the movie theater. The movie theater had video rentals and game rentals, and so
that's crazy.
It was mom and pop.
Man, video. I want to live where you lived.
No, you didn't.
Oh,
the movie theater as well. That was like mom and pop kind of deal.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, small town, northwestern Ontario. Okay. Yeah, it. Yes.
Wow. My little town had one screen, and we showed Batman the movie for 6 weeks, 8 weeks maybe, and I watched it probably 8 weeks out of the year because that was the only place my mom would take me. So I saw Batman many, many times. So there you go.
Yep.
Well, that takes us out of Byron Return. We get into what we've been gaming. So at this point, Marcus, I think the three of us have played the first game on the roster, so we can all kind of do a round robin about Avowed.
Yeah, Avowed. I don't know how far you guys have gotten into it. I think I'm about 9 or 10 hours in. So still fairly early. I think I've just made it to the second area. I'm
the big city.
I haven't. Well, no, not the big city. Isn't that in the first area? Paradise. Is there another big city that I haven't got to yet?
There's the opening area, and then you go to the city, and something happens.
Yeah. Okay, well, maybe
a bigger city.
I'm still in the first. I don't know. I've just gotten to the point where they're like, go to this tower, kind of like in the distance. Have you guys got to that point? Yeah. Anyways,
I think so. Yeah. I will say this. Yeah. Have you gotten to a part where you enter a place and something significantly crazy happens?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. That's really early. Yeah.
Mark, did you get to that point? You open a door, you enter, and something really crazy happens to you. Is that a clear enough answer to that, Marcus?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. So let's just put it this way.
So
you survive an attack.
Yes, I'm in the next area.
Is that the best way to put it? You survive an attack? Is that really spoiler free? Okay.
Good. Yeah.
Okay,
I think
cool.
you know what? Let's go spoilers for like the first few hours of Avowed. If you need to skip ahead a little bit, skip ahead.
We're talking very early, folks. We're talking like maybe 8 hours. So not even hitting a game which could take anywhere from 30 to 60 hours. So we're just saying that.
Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
So Marcus.
Yeah, no. So anyways, I have cleared more or less done, I think, most of the side quests, at least any of the ones that I've found. And I've made it to that second area. And I think I mentioned, but I really like this game. I think it's just fun. And I'm thinking about playing it. I haven't had as much time of late to play it as I would like, but man, the combat is great. The story is fine. I think that tends to be, the consensus around what I'm hearing about the game, but it's just fun to play. And I think I really appreciate Obsidian's tact with RPGs. They're a little bit scaled down. This isn't the big Starfield or the Skyrim sort of thing. Everything seems a little more streamlined. And one thing that drives me absolutely nuts in RPGs is when you've got a map and you've got like a quest marker, kind of like in some sort of fog, like you can't quite see it, and you can't just walk basically straight to it. I hate that in games. Baldur's Gate drove me nuts. I dropped Baldur's Gate. I don't know, 12 hours in, 15 hours in maybe, because that was a big part of it. That frustrates the heck out of me. This game doesn't do that. If you see a quest marker, you can more or less pretty much get straight there, and you're encountering really interesting stuff along the way that you can get diverted, or you can just continue to go straight. I don't know. I am enamored with this game at this point. We'll see how that kind of progresses as we go through, but I'm really enjoying Avowed. It's fun. It's just a lot of fun.
What class are you maining, Marcus?
What kind of weapon kind of
your build? They make you pick a path when you talk about your skill set.
Yeah, I'm rocking a two-handed axe primarily, but I'm also leveling up some attack spells for more distance sort of attacks, and that tends to be how I like to play. I want to be able to kind of keep my distance and have some options for attacking from a little bit further away, but I don't get too complicated with these things. Just give me a sword. I was doing sword and shield for a little while, and I was like, I'm never parrying anything, so why don't I just get some more power with this a bigger sword? So
you can dodge so much, which is great.
Yeah,
I love the fact that people are just calling it sword and board now rather than sword and shield.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I think is kind of silly.
But yeah, I'm just like, and I love the animation when you do a big two-handed swing and you nail the enemy and he goes flying across the screen. It's so good. Yeah.
This looks great.
I just say this game is just fun to play. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, the Outer Worlds. If you play that game, it's their approach to like Starfield in space. It's very fun, very streamlined. It's doable, and I love that game. It's so much fun. I love the fact that we're getting basically the same thing within regards to their first approach to their own IP into like a Skyrim. And it's great because they scale it back. It doesn't feel like overwhelming, but you can go off and explore. There's great quest lines that you can go off and do your own. And there are zones, so you can feel like that. And it was funny because I was talking to the Nerd Chat, and apparently there's a thing you can unlock in the very first level if you're just really curious and go around. I didn't get it. It's like basically you find a spot, you unlock something, you can find it. And I said, well, can I go back and get that? Nope. If you didn't do it, I'm like, sucks. But oh well. So I'm doing like Wizard is like my main, like, if you think of like your attributes of what you can do with your spells and things, that's what I'm doing. But what I love, it allows you to do the dual wielding. You can have two builds. You can swap, which is amazing.
The swap, just press Y button. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah.
So
great.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. I found a great quest I really enjoyed that I'll talk about when I get to it. But Mark, where are you at in Avowed?
I'm loving it as well. I've been taking my time and exploring. I'm going to say a good 6 hours in, or maybe similar-ish location-wise. I recognize what you guys were talking about, so I think, but like I'm gonna basically just mirror what Marcus was saying. Like it's just fun. It is not, it's not overwhelming. I feel like I can accomplish some things, and it's not, like you said, that far distance marker in the fog that I just can't get to. Everything is, I'm going to say, linear with with some branches to make you feel like you have some choice, to make you feel like, oh, this is a big world and there's stuff going on and it's littered with enough like people and side quests and this and that, whatever. But if you want a golden path, it's very clear what to do. And even if you're doing side quests, you still kind of feel like you're progressing through and you're just finding a couple of little secrets here and there, or, building out the world, but still you're still kind of on that path. I'm really enjoying the combat. I'm as well. I'm playing a wizard class mostly. So the second you can light someone on fire, it was like, okay, shield's gone. Bye-bye. I am sword and book now. Let's go. And those spells are just so much fun, but it's also, to Marcus's point, so satisfying to just do a big wind up cross chop with a two-handed or even one-handed sword and just send someone flying. It is super enjoyable. The story's fine. I'm just having a good time with the whole thing. So the story can be fine. It's, it doesn't have to be super deep. It's an action movie, popcorn movie style game to me. And that's kind of what I want. I know it's not like a 15-hour game. Like there is some meat to it, but it doesn't feel like an impossible task, like a lot of like Skyrim and The Witcher and those kind of games. Like they're amazing, but I fall off of every single one of them because you can drop 200 hours in there and still not even come close to completing the full story. Whereas this one, I always feel like I'm progressing a little bit. Even if I'm like, ooh, shiny object over here, and I like flittle off over there for like 20 minutes, the path to where I'm supposed to be going is always just that much closer, and I'm still kind of contained within that little branch on the right path. So it's yeah.
I was just going to say, I think it helps that it doesn't feel like those areas, those open areas that you're in, are that massive. Like they're manageable, right? Yeah. You could 100%. Run from one side of the map to the other in I don't know 10 minutes or something like that. Like it wouldn't take you that long. It's not like this big, massive open world, so it feels more bite sized from that perspective.
And you start to get fast travel locations pretty quick.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
You can set up your camp, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. When you first arrive, like that first place after the the intro jailbreak, blah blah blah, whatever. That town, like, and you first like you talk to that girl, and she's like, "Hey, my house was overrun. Go check this out," and like that kind of thing. That really set up the tone, I think, for that exploration because, like you said, you're not that far off the path. You're still within like it's like. I don't know, like a kid or something like that. Like you want to let them go off a little bit, but like, yeah, I can still see you. You can still see me. It's okay. You're not getting lost. Like go take on the goblins and then come back. And if you see something, you can still take on those other goblins.
Oh yeah.
Like, no, don't worry. Like the path is just right here. You're fine. You're safe. And I love that. I love like they could have made it feel very handholdy, but it doesn't. For some reason in this game, I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, there's a lot of elements I think they've made it very like they've reduced the level of frustration. Encumberment, if you played a Bethesda game, encumberment meaning like you just picked up too much crap. Feels like, oh my god, what do I get rid of? They make it very easy to return stuff to your camp, which is great if you could sell it, or just get rid of it and break it down for parts, which is great. If you've got a bow, you don't have to worry about arrows. You can just shoot arrows to your heart's content, which is amazing. Love that. It's great. And you can change up, like you said, your builds. You can basically have be a grimoire carrier, which is your book of spells, a wand with just whatever spells you've got. You could switch it up and have a wand with a sword, basically a one-handed mace, things like that. And then you could have your basically a bow and arrow or a two-handed hammer, which I love to have as my backup because you can smack people to hell. And the physics are amazing and go from there.
There are guns too.
Guns. Blunderbuss is horrible. I hate to say this. The blunderbuss is the worst unless you've got a lot of time to shoot that thing, reload it like the old school.
Yeah. I've got my backup loadout is a sword and a pistol. So it's like
that probably works better. You're probably like boom, where you're bullets in the air and reload versus the blunderbuss where you're literally putting in packing and powder, hitting it down like I'm gonna hit you and I gotta hold it and that's just nobody's got time for that. It's great though. I've loved that they mixed like the era that you're in, so you can have firearms, you can have magic, you can do all these things, which is great. And the quests are really fun. There's one where you get into it where you meet a person that basically says, "Trust me, I am the person you need," and this is all the things that happened. And then you get tension between your members of your crew, where you get a guy that looks he's a weird dude with a lot of fur, kind of interesting when you first meet him, and he essentially doesn't want you to trust the person that's talking to you, and you make decisions. And that's kind of like, it's not black and white, it's a lot of gray, which I really like. So you can choose that or you can't, which is cool.
So what do you guys do? This is very early in the game. Did you trust the person and bring them along, or you leave them
I did implicitly. I totally trust. Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
I'm a trusting individual. What can I say?
Did you encounter this person later after?
I have not yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay. That's cool to know.
Yes. So this person shows up later as part of another side quest and was quite helpful because I was helpful to her. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, the side quests are really unique because there's another one. Mark, did you do the side quest where you met the woman that said basically lizards have taken over her place and you should investigate?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like
and then it's basically you go in there and investigate, and it's like, oh, by the way, you might be soul bonded to this lizard. That was so weird.
It was kind of cool. Half a soul, and the lizard has the other half. And it like talked about like a lot of world building in that one, because they talked about like, oh, I've heard of this kind of thing before. You're lucky it's just a lizard guy, because other people have worse things like dragons and these things and this stuff that you haven't encountered yet. But like, just dropping those, you're like, okay, dragons, bad. If I see one of those, run away. This thing, not too bad. Like, it could be worse. You know, like, I just killed a house full of them, so maybe I kind of feel bad. Did I kill her soulmate kind of thing person? But like, and you know, beside the point, but like, yeah, super interesting little world building done in those like early kind of missions. And but at the same time, you're within like 30 seconds running distance.
It's very quick
to where you need to go, but they also let you fast travel, which is ridiculous, and I love it. And it just kind of very early on sets up that this is a game that it's going to be like, this is going to be convenient for you to play. You don't need to run for 30 seconds or a minute. You can fast travel and get this over within 2 seconds and move along your merry way to set up your camp with your lizard guy, fishman, whatever person that you meet on the dock. Like, it's just, to me, that early on kind of stuff, they set up, like you said, you get that moral choice of, do you let the prisoner, do you trust this person, do you not trust them? Sets up that decision-making thing. This one, like, you can choose to help a person, then they set up a lot of lore, and then the fast travel thing, like, they're setting up these things of showing you what this game is all about. And every single thing that I encountered, I was like, yes, I want more of this. Thank you for fixing like the worst part of most of these games right away. Avowed, like, 2 thumbs up right away, because they set up this stuff so brilliantly and so beautifully, without being like right in your face, like, here's how it's better. They just do it and then move on to the next bit. So it's great.
So another part is cool is you can design your character in many different ways. And the fun part about this is you're like a godlike. And one of the things with godlike is essentially you get to adorn yourself with like weird fungus. I chose not to have a lot of fungus on my face. Did you guys choose fungus first?
Yeah, my character's pretty decked out with some grubs. Yeah.
I started when I was doing the character creator, I was like, I don't know, I can do this. I turned it off. I ended up turning it completely off. So they mentioned you can turn this off, but all the characters will still comment on you looking.
Oh yeah, they're like very, very offensive to like your appearance. I'm like, man, you suck. But I have like the like fissures that like kind of light up. I thought it was kind of cool. I have like corn rolls. I'm like, and I have no hair, so anything I can do to have like awesome hair, I do that in real life because I don't want to look like myself. There's too many bald dudes out there. I want beautiful hair in real life, so I will do that. But I thought it was funny because it's like, oh yeah, you can select your appearance, but man, they just expect you to show up with like weird like God stuff, and they kind of are not nice to that. But yeah, it's a very cool game.
Out of my head. It's great.
Oh, very cool. I like Broccoli Man, and yes. Very cool. Well, this game is going to be something we'll talk about because we got a lot of other games coming in, so it's going to fight for time. But I think this game is going to be a lot of people's first time really loving a Western RPG. It's on Game Pass. It's available for sale, and eventually we'll hit PlayStation 5 and maybe Switch 2. We don't know, but I think this is a great game considering what it's done. I'm very proud, and this actually hit the top. It hit the top 5 for Xbox for games played in February, which is amazing.
Okay,
I really love that. A single player game hit top played on Xbox. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Indiana Jones did not do that. So we'll take that as great. We get it. Yeah. So Marcus, what else you've been playing?
So I got a couple others here, smaller games. I'm not sure if you guys maybe even be familiar with them. So as Todd mentioned right off the top, I do another show called Tiny Game Chronicles where we pick a really short game, usually about 5 hours or less, and play through it, and me and my co-host we talk about that game. So the first one is To the Moon. This one's probably a little bit more I don't know, more likely to have you guys have heard of it. Have either of you heard of it?
To the Moon. Is there a DS game called To the Moon, or was that just Moon?
It came out in 2011. It was made in RPG Maker, and it is a really sweet, emotional story that's wrapped around like some really kind of clunky and tedious gameplay. But it's a story about a dying man whose wish is to go to the moon, and these scientists come to him to alter his memories to basically allow him to go to the moon. And you the story and you go back in time and you kind of see, you learn the main character's motivations for wanting to go to the moon. So you learn about his relationship with his wife and their home and kind of their life. And it is a really, really touching, emotional story. It was quite well received when it came out. I think it had won some awards for best narrative. Again, way back in 2011. It's now on everything. I think it's over the years it's been ported to everything. I played it on PlayStation 5. But yeah, I mean, I think like I would give a tentative recommendation for people that maybe are more story focused, gamers. But if you're like a gameplay first, it's probably you might have a tough time working through it, because it's an older, like, not only was it made in 2011, which is now like we're coming up on almost 15 years here.
Wow.
But it feels like it was made 30 years ago in a lot of respects. Like the narrative is more modern, but the gameplay can get a little clunky. So that's To the Moon. And then the other game that we're playing for our upcoming episode is a recent release, another indie called Keep Driving. And this one I hadn't heard of until a few weeks ago. As maybe we'll get into in a little bit, I'm big into the Fantasy Critic, so I keep a pretty close tabs on OpenCritic, which is a site that aggregates reviews and gives you review scores. And this game I think it was sitting at like an 89 on OpenCritic. And I was like, oh, wow. That automatically puts it on our radar. And so my co-host Michael and I were talking about it. And I'm like, we should just do this one. And so it's only on PC. Which is usually a big detractor for me, but it looked so interesting to me that I was like, well, let's give it a go. And it is, I guess we could be best described as like a management sim RPG. So it takes place in like the early 2000s, and you're a college age kid who just wants to get out on the road and experience life over the summer, right? And basically you're in your car, and your car is, you have to maintain your car and buy things for your car, upgrades and stuff. And then you pick up like hitchhikers who kind of act as like party members. And then as you're driving, you have almost like battles. You encounter like a slow moving truck or something like that. And then there's this kind of a unique battle system that you're doing to interact with it. And there are these quests that you have to engage with, and you kind of encounter quests. So there's this big wide map, and there's lots of different routes you can take. And so you have the opportunity to take lots of different options, and you have to, it's got that management sim aspect. So you've got to make sure your car is in good repair, and you have to make sure you've got enough gas, and you've got to, you've got to maintain your energy level, because by doing lots of different stuff, there's food and junk food and drugs. Yeah, I was mentioning to somebody I had found in one town, you can get out of your car and explore the town a little bit. I found cocaine in a dumpster, and so you can add that to your inventory, and
wow,
it gives you a big energy boost. But then after that energy boost is done, you end up with some like negative side effects. So it's wild. It's and there's like kind of, I think what I had read, I've basically rolled credits once, but there's just so much more of the game to experience. It took me about 5 hours to roll credits once. And there are 3 kind of end goals. One of them, the one that I chose, was to make it to this music festival. But there are other ones. You can go to a race and participate in some road race, and that's an end goal. I'm not sure what the other one is, but there's 3 of them I know for sure. And I think some of your progress, like your car upgrades, will carry over from one run to the next. So it even has like a bit of a roguelite aspect to it. It is really neat. It's super unique. I've never played anything like it, and it's something I've rolled credits yesterday, and I can't stop thinking about it. This game is fantastic, and the reviews are, well deserved. It is a really, really unique game, and I hope it comes to other platforms. I originally wanted to play it on Steam Deck, but it's really kind of originally designed for mouse and keyboard, so it didn't really play great on using the trackpad. It didn't even map to the analog sticks.
Oh, wow.
Maybe I could get it. I'm not technologically savvy enough to kind of configure my Steam Deck to maybe do that, but yeah, I hope it migrates to other platforms, because I think it is a game that is probably pretty under the radar despite some good reviews, and I think it's a game worth checking out for sure.
Gig Economy, the game. It's crazy.
Yeah.
With cocaine as a bump, keep you going.
So good. Yeah, it was so funny. I found joints and a cocaine in one dumpster, and I was like, okay, I'll add those to the inventory. We'll see if we need them. Well, and I did. And it's funny because if you run out of gas and you kind of you only have a limited amount of, I guess we could call them attacks, to kind of get through these encounters. That's
interesting. It's the thing of attack.
Yeah, you have to counter the whatever I don't know, the enemies that you're encountering. They're not enemies per se. They're literally you run into potholes. Potholes are the enemy, and it comes with a set of I don't know, icons that you have to kind of negate. And you can, if you run out of things to do, you have to make sure that you've got your energy up. And so anyways, I kept running into these on my way up a mountain, and I was like, I don't have anything left. I need energy. So cocaine it is. Cocaine it is.
Cocaine it is. I love that. That's a phrase I have never said before.
Me neither.
Mark,
yeah.
You never said that phrase?
No, that's a new one.
Yeah.
I think should be on a box art for this.
Exactly. Cocaine it is. Yeah. Well, Mark, your next thing you're going to talk about, I'm assuming they did not say that phrase.
No, there was not too many mentions of cocaine during Pokemon Day. I mentioned that I cracked open and charged my DSi to jump into Heart Gold. I love my Ambernick SP to play my old Pokemon games, but for sometimes you just have to go to the DS. And the thing that got me wanting to charge that up and play it was Pokemon Day. So that just happened last week. We got a few different things. The usual. I mean, if you've ever seen Pokemon Day before, you know that this is not a good video game event. It's a good Pokemon event for a broad audience. So they're going to talk about Pokemon Concierge on Netflix. They're going to talk about the mobile games like Cafe Remix and all that kind of stuff. They spent a weird amount of time on Pokemon languages being available. For I don't know. But there were a couple of decent announcements. My son really, really loves Pokemon Unite. So he was very excited about new characters coming to that one. There's some, the usual updates to Pokemon Go. But the exciting stuff is a new game called Pokemon Champion. No, is that Champions? Yeah, Pokemon Champions. That's the new one. Basically Pokemon Stadium, new version. You'll be able to bring your Pokemon from Pokemon Home, engaging cross-platform between Switch and mobile devices, which I think is really, really cool. And then they showed off what I thought was a great trailer for Pokemon Legends ZA.
So it's ZA, not ZA? Z through A?
It hurt me to say ZA.
I know.
I think it's ZA because it's like pizza. Za, maybe. So it is, Mark.
Pokemon ZA. I
don't think Japanese say Zed. I don't know. I don't know if Zed is a specific term that the Japanese know.
No, exactly. So this is a new game. Takes place completely in Lumio City, which we've seen before, but this expands it, makes it look like. At first, when I heard that, it was like a Pokemon game taking place in one city, but they're expanding the city. You can go on rooftops. It looks like a little bit of like almost parkour action too. Pour one out for Cyndaquil if you like that starter, because he got replaced by Tepig as the fire starter, which is weird in this crew. They're bringing back Mega Evolutions. A lot of stuff to like in this one. And the last Pokemon Legends game I thought was super interesting and did a lot of new stuff. This one, you can move around the battlefield, so you can actively dodge and run out of the way of your opponent's attacks, and they can do the same to you, or you can kind of reposition and try to attack. So it looks like some really cool mechanics, which again they did with the last Pokemon Legends game. So I hope this one's just as well received as Arceus. I hope they have that same kind of level of polish as well, because Arceus was so much more polished than Scarlet and Violet, for sure. And I think keeping it to one city can kind of help ensure that, keeping the very Avowed kind of approach. You don't need this big sprawling kind of world. You can kind of keep it a little bit more linear, set on your path, still have some exploration, but kind of keep it a little bit more contained, a little tighter, and still have a good time. So I'm really looking forward to Pokemon Legends. My son's really excited about that, and it's got me. I was playing a bit more Fire Red, kind of I'm like end game on that one, and like I said, jumped over into to Heart Gold. So it was a good Pokemon weekend at my place when I wasn't playing Avowed in the last couple of weeks. So but that's about it. No other new stuff aside from like the new season of Fortnite, but that's a continual thing. So yeah. What about you, Todd?
Well, I was going to say, I think the cool part is ZA is coming out this fall, so we are assuming there'll be a Switch version, and hopefully a Switch 2 gets something in the world of like upgrades, performance that would help that game show, oh, this is the power of Switch 2. Hopefully. I don't know if we've seen that before with a Pokemon game, because typically they stay on the old systems first and then come over, but we haven't seen like the games simultaneously release on two systems at the same time, which is a new thing. So hopefully it's good for Pokemon.
I don't think they'll do anything with that. I think this is going to be a Switch game. I think it'll run on Switch 2, but I think unless Switch 2 is automatically applying something, unless they have that, we're automatically up-resing. We're doing
NVIDIA does some tech
and video stuff
to help it. Maybe.
So unless that's going to be the case for every single Switch game, I think this is a Switch game. I think it'll run on Switch 2 just fine, but I don't think I highly doubt we'll see any like specific enhancements. The only caveat to that I will say is that they didn't drop the Switch name on this. They just specifically said during this trailer and during the Pokemon Day announcements that this game will be out in the fall. For anything else, they said this will work with, like for Champions, they said it'll work with Switch and it'll work with mobile. For this one, they only said like look forward to it this fall. And I kind of noticed, or maybe I missed it, but like I don't think they specifically dropped the name Switch anywhere, which could also point to like maybe it does have some weird little Switch 2 upgrades, but that'd be super surprising to me. So I'm thinking this is just a standard Switch game.
Now with mouse mode, maybe. We'll see.
Sure. Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know anything about the Switch except for the 2 minutes video we got, and it's a month away from the video we'll get for the April announcement. So we shall see. And I hope they address that. Maybe they'll say like everything coming to Switch 2 that's also coming to Switch. We'll see improvements and blah, blah, blah. But we don't know. but that's something to think about. For myself, the big thing that happened was Steam Next Fest, not Switch Next Fest. Steam Next Fest is amazing. If you own a PC or a Steam Deck or whatever, they put out a billion demos of just all these cool games that are coming out. So I'm like, I got to dive in and just see these games. I played a little bit. Some I played all the way through. Some I just touched on. So I will be doing that. And ask me any questions you have about one of the games that I want to touch on was Ruffy and the RiverSide. I don't know if you've seen this game before. It's really cool.
I've heard this is like weird things. It's a 3D platformer, yeah?
It's a 3D platformer, but your character Ruffy, he looks like a weird Ewok, Mark. So you like that. He's kind of 2D, but he's on a 3D area. So the way he moves and interacts with the environment feels very interesting from a aesthetic aspect. It's almost like Paper Mario in a fully 3D area, but you got this character that feels like he's moving through the space, and if he moves sideways, you'd see him like a paper. It's very cool. And what he can do is really unique. He can basically map the environment with the RB button. So if you've got a waterfall and he sees vines, he can capture that environment and paste it on the waterfall, and it turns like in a waterfall of vines, so he can crawl up them. So he can use the environment to turn into, like, he can turn stones into crates, and then he can hit those crates, which is very cool. I like the idea of it. Like, he can take frozen things and turn a lake into frozen. He can take lava and turn water into lava into stone. So there's some really cool, unique elements of like physics plus capturing elements in the environment to do traversal. And I thought it was really cool. I really thought it was a unique game. I'm like, this is cool. And I hope it pays off. And essentially it feels like a overworld hub where you unlock stars, you open up doors, and you go into those worlds. You have to get so many things to finish the level. It's very cool. And I would say check out Ruffy and the RiverSide, because I believe this is coming to Switch, coming to everything else. But it's very cool in regards to what they can do with a 3D platformer and turn on its head. I really thought this was cool.
You're not the first person I've heard talk about this game, Todd. And it was Seth Sturgill at Carpool Gaming. He had mentioned it, and he was quite high on it as well. And Seth is a pretty good barometer for these types of indie games. Like I always take his input on this stuff pretty seriously. So I believe it's coming out relatively soon. I want to say full release spring.
Very soon. I'm going to put links in the chat we're talking through now, so you can see the games I'm talking about, so you don't have to guess what Todd's talking about. And I'll put these in the links as well. So I would say check it out. Obviously, I think a demo, if it's on Steam, may come to platforms, but I love Steam where they have all these demos, easy to try out, and then actually put it on your wish list to save later. So I thought Rusty was cool. I think it's a game that's well worth checking out. So that was my first game I checked out. Second game was Rusty Rabbit. So I've talked about a game that I really enjoyed on console called Fist, and it was essentially a robot rabbit Metroidvania where you had a lot of combat skills in a Metroidvania for traversal and power-ups. I love that game so much. It's awesome. I think it's an Eastern European developer. I own the basically the collector's edition for that game. And I saw this game called Rusty Rabbit. I'm like, this looks kind of cool. Very super cute robot rabbits, but they're in a mech suit that meet other people. It's fun. The demo, though, gave me pause, because while the graphics are beautiful and it's really fun, you've got a lot of fur physics in this robot called Rusty. He's kind of a grumpy old dude. He's like, I've been through the junk trade for years, and these young kids are trying to do the thing. So it's kind of funny with that aesthetic. And it does deal with a lot of platforming and exploration, but there's not a lot of combat in this demo. But I've heard there's more combat that may play out. But essentially, it feels very much like a kind of like a SteamWorld Dig type game, but less than that. I think it's got a lot of promise. I will see where they go with it, but I think if you at least watch the demo, I put the basically the link to the Steam link if you want to check it out. It looks really good, but I just felt like the gameplay let me down. I'm like, I wanted more from it. So more about traversal and exploration than combat. So your mileage may vary on that game. So, but check it out. I think it's cool, and it could deliver when it goes full release. Another game that is interesting is called Demon Tides. You may have seen the other game that this developer did, which was basically a 2D sprite, and you're doing a lot of platforming. You're going through the level, doing that things. I think it was called Demon Surf. Now, Demon Tides is definitely playing for more of a full-on 2D, 3D platformer game that I appreciate what they did. The art's cool, but I will tell you, I still feel it felt clunky. Didn't feel great. It felt a little bit underdeveloped if you compare it to like a Nintendo type game when you're looking for that quality platformer. So I think the aesthetic's cool. The cast of characters are fun. I just did not enjoy playing the game. I thought there was too many opportunities where I thought the controls let me down compared to like a Mario game. So, but it is interesting. It feels like a 3D platformer with a cool aesthetic. And I like to see this developer, what they've done. It's called Fabraz is the developer. They made a game called Demon Turf, if you want to check it out, where it was a like 2D like aesthetic in a 3D world. So I would say check it out. There's also ways to like play with graffiti in the world and do things like that. It's definitely tongue-in-cheek. There's some cool, interesting traversal mechanics. I just did not feel like it lived up to its attitude in what it wanted to convey. So check out that if you want. It's free to play, obviously, the demo. So check out Demon Tides. I will say there's a bonus one if you want to check out. It's called Haste on Steam. I'll look that up, but it's basically like remember the game when you played it, we were on skis. It's like a mobile game where you would jump and you had to hit like the incline just right to hit the speed, and then it was Aldo's Altitude. Is that the game? It was a mobile game. Yes, where basically you jumped and you had to hit the incline on the next down, gain momentum, and then jump up again. Well, this is a first-person version of that. It's called Haste. Feels like you're in a Sonic level where you're jumping up, and then you have to hit the incline just right so you can nail it down to get more momentum. It's really cool. You collect targets. So it feels like a Sonic game done really well with speed that you can't even imagine, but it's very difficult. So if you're looking for that like Sonic first person type of mechanic, Haste is a really cool game. I'd check out Haste. I saw the mechanic and I'm like, I get what they're going for, but I just don't find the interest in getting like more speed and getting like time trials. So Haste is a very cool game if you're into that. My last game though is kind of cool because this reminds me of a day when we got a lot of like licensed games from properties we loved in a very like arcade way. Do you remember like the Lord of the Rings games on like PS2, PS3, where it was like, oh, it's the Lord of the Rings game, the movie game, where it was very arcadey. It felt really cool. Well, we're getting that again with Game of Thrones Kingsroad. This game is very cool.
Okay.
I thought I was impressed. I played this game. It had one of my cardinal sins of not being able to pause because there was a lot of cool like moments I wanted to stop as I was taking a break, but I couldn't do it. But this is like Game of Thrones with an action arcade RPG game when it's like Jon Snow at the wall dealing with like White Walkers. It's very good looking, plays very well. The combat's awesome. The basically the action is really good, but also the storytelling and the acting is great. So Game of Thrones Kingsroad, I thought this was just going to be a mobile game. I was really impressed by this game. I wanted to play more of this game, and I'm glad we're getting something like this because we have not gotten much at all from Game of Thrones. So if you want to try a game, I think it may be coming to consoles as well, but Game of Thrones Kingsroad, very good. And you should, the king shows up. He throws a spear. You take on a giant White Walker. It's amazing. and it's really good. So I can't wait to see this game come out. It's supposed to come out in Q2 2025, and he's got no hype at all. So I want this game to be good.
I've never heard of it, and I
didn't either.
I'd consider myself a Game of Thrones fan, but this is news to me. Yeah.
It looks amazing. I thought this game was cool. So that's my last game. So Steam Next Fest is amazing. So if you own a way to play Steam games, this is amazing to see all these cool games. And there's so many demos. I wish more of these would come to console because I think we need to play these games. So that is where I landed and what I've been playing.
Awesome.
So that is it for what we've been playing. So we're going to be getting into the last segment of the game. Before we do this, here's an ad. All right. We are back. And we're going to talk about the bonus round. So we talked about gamifying our lives is a way of taking what we love in the world of games and taking those rudimentary, chores or the things we can do to make gaming awesome when you're not playing the games. So Marcus, you do an amazing podcast about the fantasy gaming critics leagues that a lot of people are involved in, very much like fantasy football and different fantasy leagues, which takes games, the critic rating, and put it into a metric. Mark, you found ways to podcast while you're walking, do things like that. Pokemon Go. I've done Ring Fit. So I want to talk about just how do we gamify our lives? And so with that, Marcus, how do you gamify your life beyond just doing an awesome podcast about the Fantasy Critic?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. Do you want me to get it too much into Fantasy Critic? I know that Todd is a more recent convert. Mark, do you play Fantasy Critic at all? Are you familiar? How not? Are you shaking his head?
Tell people about it, Marcus.
Yeah. So, I mean, Todd kind of. I think this line is actually on the website. It's basically like fantasy football, but for video games. So, it involves drafting at the beginning of the year, drafting a roster of games. You're in a league with people, and the way that you score is it's all based on review scores. So, and it specifically takes the site OpenCritic and uses those aggregator review scores. So the higher the game reviews, the more score that you get. Is basically how it goes. So I've found it incredibly fun to play. Obviously enough fun to start a podcast, but I was in from the very beginning. I think I've been playing Fantasy Critic. I think it may have been mentioned maybe on Kind of Funny. I know that Kyle Stevenson over at the Trophy Room had started a league in that community pretty early. Like it was either the first year that it was the live or the year after. And so I've been kind of all in since that point and pretty active. I mean, I think one thing that I really appreciate about it is that it kind of entices you or incentivizes you to follow games more closely than you otherwise would. And you're obviously always looking at it through the lens of less about, well, am I going to like this game? It's more like, how is this game going to review? So you're kind of, it's a little bit like with fantasy sports where, do you choose to draft a team of players from the team you like, or you're trying to draft a bunch of players from team that's going to make you win, like the best players? And so it's a little bit of that, but I will say that it has really opened my eyes to games like Keep Driving that I had talked about before, that games that I would have never heard of or been exposed to. And I'm now starting to research these types of games, and it's like, oh, and I've really hit on so many games that I've really ended up loving playing, all kind of funneled in through this lens of playing Fantasy Critic. So it's been a lot of fun. I in multiple leagues every year, kind of like the fantasy football, like I used to be with fantasy football. I don't play that anymore, but yeah, I'm all in. And starting the podcast like we did kind of a little bit before the end of 2024, and it's been fun. It's been fun to kind of get together. It's just a monthly show, so we get together once a month to chat fantasy. So it's been a lot of fun, and kind of brings that video game hobby just out a little outside of it. I'm not actually playing video games, but I'm still playing a game that is about games. So yeah, it's been a blast.
So Marcus, I was going to say, I think for anyone that is interested in Fantasy Critics League, it does feel like fantasy football, where it feels like you may, like myself, I am in fantasy football, but I primarily follow one team.
Right.
What fantasy football has done, I watch the whole league now. So Fantasy Critic, I have to look at the world of games beyond my purview of like, I only play like action RPGs or do this. Now I have to understand like what is important to gaming and the games that do well, which makes me understand it makes me appreciate gaming even more. Like the games that are there, the full breadth. It's like, it's very fun because you have to pick games that you assume will do well. And there's not every game that's available that you would normally pick in your own pocket. You can't play with your heart, you have to play with your brain. So you have to understand what's out there. So I like it because it makes you think beyond your own zone of games and open your mind to say, what will do well? Yep. And it's like myself, I have Yakuza like a pirate.
Yakuza, yeah.
I would never play that game, right. But I know it's going to do well. So I've got it. So I'm going to play it because I just really want to do it. I think it's really cool. So I'm glad that it's opening my horizon in games. So I appreciate that. I listened to your podcast. I didn't even know it was you when I listened to it. I'm like, there's a Fantasy Critic League game podcast, and it's Marcus. Oh my God, this is very cool. So then I was in a league with Marcus. I'm in 2 leagues. It's very fun. I don't know how well I'll do because I'm dumb, and I'll probably not make any good picks, but it's fun. So this is, once again, an example of like gamifying something that you may not even play any of these games, but it makes you think about gaming in a different light. So I like this as well. So thank you, Marcus, for that. So if you're interested, though, Marcus, what should people check out? Because I know you'll talk about it later on. But if people want to learn more about like Fantasy Critic, what should they do?
Yeah, so it's free to play as well. So just I think it's fantasycritic.games is the site. If you just Google Fantasy Critic, it will come up. And I mean, I think like generally what happens is the leagues, most communities, at least that I'm in, Discord communities that I'm in, are running Fantasy Critic leagues these days. So it's probably not too hard to find a league if it is something you're interested in, but you're looking at it's probably too late for this season to play I think the website has it's almost like I don't know if it's a weekly or it's a monthly sort of game. I've never really engaged with that. I kind of play the regular traditional one, but yeah, so you're probably, if it's something that you're interested in, you're probably like looking to next season, because the season runs literally just the calendar year. So, but yeah, I think that, I don't know, if it sounds at all interesting, I would definitely check it out, and just keep an eye for whatever community you happen to be in, because there's a good chance they're probably going to be running a league. And it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, and if our SFU community would want to be into it, I would recommend joining one of the leagues that's already established rather than starting our own. We could obviously do that, but I would rather funnel our resources into the cool leagues I'm in. I'm in the Banger Slanger League from the Trophy Game, and also Save the Games Media. So Marcus does a great job there. So thank you, Marcus, for that. So Mark, how have you gamified your life?
It's made me a better driver. You know, I'm always watching out for banana peels and turtle shells when I'm driving. It really keeps me alert and aware. Bringing games into real life when most people see, trash can or a wooden crate, I see a place that might give me free cocaine or HP boosts. So, it helps with those things. You see a discarded turkey carcass, I see extra HP if I'm running low. So you just gotta take those things and run with them. It makes me a better person. All right.
Wow. Yeah. Discarded food is always good for your health.
It's really, I mean, if it works for Double Dragon, it's going to work for me. Obviously those games,
ground turkeys,
1-to-1 ground turkeys are sustenance. But really, I've used like gaming to even just this weekend, like, my son is into gaming. He's 4. He enjoys like Pikmin and Kirby. So Sunday was a nice day, and it was like we need to get out of the house. No more screens, no more this, no more that. But I also I just wanted to get out of the house for a bit. So it was like, all right, buddy, let's go for a walk. He's like, I'm not going for a walk. And I was like, okay, let's go out and play Pikmin in real life. He was like, oh yeah, okay, I'm in. He's like, you're Captain Olimar. I'm a Pikmin. Let's go. We were outside for an hour, just running around the block, running around the streets, like running around our yard, everything.
That's awesome.
Like he was just like having the best time. And every once in a while, he'd just like fall or wander off somewhere and be like, hey, you left me behind. You got to blow your whistle. And I'd just walk over and just be like, Phoot, and he'd come flying next to me and whatever. And, like take things back to the ship. So we were like down the street and then run back to the house and then back down the street. And like, it was just like a perfect time to just get out of the house and just do that. But it was all just, again, just bringing that gaming bit, just into the world to get them out and make it fun. And like Pokemon Go has done that and similar games to, and I mean, I'm moving my hand around and like I find the Apple
you get
Watch
orbs. Is that what it's? Was that what Apple does? They do like orbs or something?
Yeah, you gotta
your
close
health.
close your. What did I got a perfect week of something last week. Oh, there we go. So like you gotta close your rings, right?
Okay.
Slacking on the exercise ring today. If anyone saw that pop up there. Instead of my usual walk or exercise, I filed my taxes tonight. Go health.
Wait, you get credit for filing taxes? This seems so weird.
Mental health credits. I'm getting.
Okay.
Just like get it done out of the way instead of actually exercising. But yeah, like but like the Apple Watch, I find like I'm like I gotta complete my goals. I gotta do those little rings. I gotta see the little explosion go off. It's that like Vampire Survivors kind of like, hey, I got the little like lighty uppy thingy on my wrist. Woohoo, go me. So I've gamified my life a few times, and continue to do so in various different forms. So I always kind of keep everything, kind of goes back to. I mean, I'm wearing a Mario TV shirt and I have Pokemon and Zelda tattoos, and if I can gamify something, I'm going to for sure.
It makes sense. I mean, I use gaming podcasts to help me do chores around the house. It keeps me engaged. I'm focused. It just like having my friends in my ears. I love that. I would say another thing would be anything that makes me happy to work out. And that would be like my work app that rewards us for doing fitness and things like that. You engage it and you achieve points that you basically get achievements and then you get gift cards. So it's like that's gaming, right? Basically, all those little incentives, those achievements that allow you to do that, which is like my company wants me to be healthy. So any healthy things I do, I document. It's kind of like an achievement, and I get credit for it. So I think that's cool too. But I would say the number one thing I did to gamify my health would be one thing would be Ring Fit Adventure. So if you've never played this on Switch, it's an amazing fitness app. It's great. It's better than Wii Fit, all those things. It's great. You're basically using a ring to squeeze or do different exercises to beat a boss. I love that. They made it exciting. It made it feel like you were progressing in your health and also doing to beat a boss. I love that. It's one of my favorites. I've got shoulder issues though, so doing a squeeze sometimes can be a problem. My other thing that I really enjoyed was VR. VR is great for health. Yeah. Oh my God. I was playing a game, Mark. I can't remember what it was called, but basically it's a first person, basically traversal game where you use your arms and you go like this to move in the game to hit things. And you feel like you're like an orc and does that. And like, it was great fitness. I was doing Racket NX with Quest, and it felt like I was gamifying my health by just having fun. And I think that's so amazing that gaming can do that, where it doesn't feel like getting fit is a detriment. So that's where I feel like if it can be a boon to your health by gaming, I fully recommend it. Some people like gamify, like I get so much time with like sleeping with Pokemon Sleep, Pokemon brushing your teeth, all those things are great. My son actually used Pokemon Sleep for a while to actually incentivize his health. So I like that gaming is turning into more of a way to make yourself better. So I'm all for those things. So anything else?
I was just going to comment on the kind of like the fitness game, I don't know, area that it seems like it's really progressed in the last few years. Like because I think like the first one, which you briefly brought up, was We Fit, right? And like, I think it was a good concept, but it didn't really like, and I remember because in my real life, I work with in obesity research. So like they were really testing out this We Fit as a potential weight loss tool. And it was like, no, it doesn't really work. Like if you maybe a little, you're probably better than sitting on the couch and doing nothing, but it's not really like getting your heart rate up enough and making you get a good sweat going and stuff like that. Whereas, I know that I haven't played Ring Fit, but I know that like it's a different animal, right? And I think like, it's a really cool thing that gaming has progressed in this way, and this specific genre of game has progressed in this way to really incentivize folks who need maybe just a little bit extra to help motivate them to do these things. So yeah, I think it's really cool. I don't really engage with them myself, but like, I guess maybe a little bit. I have a few like running apps that, so they give me trophies and achievements when I go certain distances. And, it's not something that I necessarily structure my workouts around, but I still always look at them and I still always like seeing them. And I still like getting a gold trophy for my fastest time during between these two. It's not like I'm setting out to do that, but I still like looking at it, and it's still motivating in a sense, it's cool.
There was a running app. I think it was like all about running away from zombies, which I thought was a good idea. It's like, would you run to live and survive the zombies? I'm like, that's cool. So
it is.
I don't know if that still exists or not.
I think it does, because I still get emails about it. But it's called Run Zombies Run, and it would there would be segments of the game, whatever you're listening to. It's almost like a podcast, but you're listening to it where the zombies would be chasing you. So you literally have to increase your pace. And then in between, then you're just jogging, and then you could have music playing in the background for just kind of like, but then zombies would come and they'd be telling a narrative actually also while this is a long, like seasons long thing. And so this is years ago that I had tried this one, but it was pretty cool.
They've added to that app since. There's like Marvel stuff. So if you don't like zombies, you don't want to feel like there's zombies chasing you, you can listen to Marvel narratives, and do like Asgard training, Sentinel escapes. Like there's full stories written, but it's through the Zombie Run app, or that's who makes it anyway. But like, it's Marvel Move, I think. So like,
and there's like Peloton has some things where it's like definitely utilizing different ways to incentivize people through properties you love.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very cool. Well, if anybody has any other ideas how to gamify their life, I love it. Like how to actually reduce clutter. Maybe there's a Tetris game that could reduce that. I don't know. Let me know. And I would love to hear that, because I got to work on that. So, but this has been amazing. Marcus, I'm so glad we had you on. This has been a lot of fun. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about what you do and the cool stuff you talk about?
Well, I mentioned them a couple times before, but I guess I'll plug them one more time. So I do 2 podcasts. One is called Hype Factor. It's a monthly fantasy critic focused podcast with my good friend John 32 in the Carpool Gaming Discord. And yeah, that's been a lot of fun. And then I also do a bi-weekly show called Tiny Game Chronicles, where me and my friend Michael pick a 5-hour game or less to do a deep dive on. And it's also been quite great. In terms of social media, you can find me primarily on Blue Sky at this time. I have forsaken the other app, and my handle there is at Marcus O'Neill 79.
Perfect. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Marcus. It's been great. I'm glad we finally got to connect.
Yeah, totally. This has been fun.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Blue Sky, hanging out in our Discord, all under CaNerdian _Jedi.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Check out Mark. He does some great stuff. And Mark, we've got a new person that wants to podcast on Holocron Chronicles. I'll talk more about that with you. If you like Star Wars, check out Mark and the Holocron Chronicles. For me, at Todd Oxtra on the Blue Skies, at T Oxtra on the Threads and Instagram. Check us out there. And if you like Secret Friends Unite, at Secret Friends Unite on both of those services. So check out our Discord, check out our YouTube channel, and we hope you enjoy that. And remember, enter the contest. You get your free trial on Patreon. It would be awesome for you to check that out. So that is it for our podcast. We've gone a long time, but we had a great time. So Mark, thank you so much. Remember, folks, it's always better to game together.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.